guys. You know what it is. NXTea's wrapping up, so it's your boy Pluggo, and Ed's with me tonight. I got a co-host, finally.
Yeah.
Somebody was, but we're just going to shoot the proverbial stuff. I don't want to curse too early in the stream and then get us flagged and then, have Spencer at me again. I've never been in Spencer's office on a Wednesday. It's usually Fridays.
It's normally right after Between Two Beards. Spencer's like, all right, Pluggo, you've got your 8:30 appointment.
So yeah, you guys know how this is. We are filling in for Zach, who's on assignment, and we are just going to talk until NXT's overrun is done. Sounds like Carmelo Hayes is he cashed in his contract, and who knows what's happening.
Yeah, and the show just ended.
Just ended. Did Carmelo Hayes get the dub, or are we gonna save that for NXT?
We're gonna tease that for NXT.
So we're gonna go ahead and just get started. Where is that? Let's hit that intro.
Ladies and gentlemen, power is over. But that does not mean for one instant of a second that the fun is over. Without a doubt, you are here because the power is out. So stick around, because it's Power Out. Yeah, it's Power Out.
Man, I am partial. I'm going to start the show off with that. I am super partial to the Between Two Beards intro because I just think it slaps. But, man, the Power Out intro is just as good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, the wordsmith kills it. What's up, you guys? Like I said in that little interlude, it is Pluggos filling in for Zach tonight as the host of Power Out. He's on assignment. I'm joined by my boy Ed Fries. What's up, my man?
Not much. I got my first experience to NWA Power tonight. So
all right, this is going to be an interesting episode of the old Power Out because this is the first time I've hosted where it wasn't a recap or a draft. And Ed's never watched the NWA until today. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen here. Overall, I mean, it was a show. That's all I'm going to say.
There was a wrestling show on.
There was a wrestling show on. There was some wrestling. There wasn't as much wrestling as I would have liked to have seen. There was a lot of talking, a lot of questions in the old proverbial air. They start out, they got Trevor Murdoch. I was super proud of Trevor for putting sleeves on to be a commentator tonight. That man does not like sleeves.
This is true. I was initially like, so I've watched last week's episode too, just so I had a gauge as to how the show moves, how things happen. Does Velvet ever really add anything to commentary? It's an honest question.
She does, but it's the I gotta give her kind of a benefit of the doubt. It's usually a 3-person booth, and you know how that goes, right?
Yeah,
she kind of gets overshadowed by Galley, who dominates at commentary, and then whoever the third person is usually like a Tim Storm or something like that.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure how Tim Storm fits in and how normally if him and her have better, back and forth than her and Joe Galley seem to have. And Austin Idol the week before was just
hard to listen to.
It was something. He was there. He's a character. I like him. He's interesting. I don't know if I want him on commentary every week, but he's interesting. But this week we had Trevor, and Trevor was really good because Trevor likes to talk about the wrestling in the ring and what's going on the screen. And he acts like he actually knows what's going on, which is nice. I like that.
Well, he is your NWA World Champion, so I'd hope he knows what's going on in a wrestling ring. Yeah, tonight started off, we had a little tag match right into it. We had Mims and Sal Renaro going up against Hawks Ari.
Yeah, Hawks and Ari, something like that.
Hawks Ari, I think it was what the name.
It's a father-son team. I learned
father-son, Cody and PJ Hawk. It's a good team. It feels very like this tournament is kind of I think it's made for them. I'm going to go on a limb. I think they get it done and get the Chag shots against Rebellion. I know him
Rebellion,
as Rebellion. Yeah, I know him as Beast 666, and then the other guy I couldn't remember. It's Mickles. Yeah, see, that's why you should be hosting. I should just be hanging out. I forgot these people's names. But no, I digress. It was a solid match. I love Mims. I think you and I were talking pre-show how we think Mims has a great look, and he is awesome. Sal is Sal. He's going to do his thing. He's kind of goofy. You know, the Hawks winning with a roll-up. The father-son duo, they advance. Pretty standard match. What'd you think, Ed?
It was an it's the finish was with a built to it, and then all of a sudden the submission just seemed to come out of nowhere, and it was like a weird like single leg crab. Like I'm like,
there you go.
He just gives up like that. Like, okay, schoolboy into a crab, and that's the end. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this show, that's kind of where that. All right, like that's where we're at. This was one of those they left. It felt very filler. It felt like we've got to fill a week of TV. We need to do something because we've got a pay-per-view coming up that we want to push, but we need to advance some storylines. And this was one of those. They advanced to the end. They face off in the finals. I would assume next week. They did not announce if it was next week or not, but I would have to imagine you would just do that. If you
I would if I were them. I mean, you got the match set now.
But the NWA, as you guys know, when I'm on here, I let you know they are a wild card.
They definitely are.
As I was getting ready for tonight, as soon as I had to wait till 6:05 to know if it was going to be a clip show or not. I didn't know. They don't. Anyway, so they kind of move on. I already kind of forgot who was next, but I know.
So they had the pre-taped Pope segment next.
Yes,
because they were in the middle of the match. They were like, "By the way, we've just gotten word that after this, we're going to have a word from the Pope for Trevor."
Yes, because I was thinking that was a little later. I thought maybe they did something else, but yes, the Pope thing. So basically, Pope comes out tonight. I love Pope. I am all in on Pope all day, every day, twice on Sunday. I think they screwed up not having him win the 7. Go Lucky 7, cash in. We'll talk about that in a minute. But he basically comes out, and this wasn't one of my favorite Pope segments. This was one I hate to say it because I'm a huge fan, but he literally went. He gave the old, I don't know when, I'm not sure where, I don't know how, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to cash in on you, Trevor, but, sometime down the road, not now. Enjoy your reign. I'm just going to wait. And he just kind of drew this out where it was like, Pope, like, that's not you. You are charismatic. Call your shot. You're the man. You're just sitting there like, oh, enjoy it, Trevor, blah, blah. And I wasn't feeling it.
Like, I liked the fact that he was like, hey, I respect the NWA. I respect Trevor. He talks about how he was backstage and he wanted to be one of the first people to grab Trevor and, hold him and tell him how proud he was. He was talking about how he was holding Trevor's son as Trevor's son was crying when Trevor won the title and all that's great. And I'm like, oh, okay. So he's like, Trevor, when it's going to happen, you're going to see it coming. I'm going to come out. I'm going to tell you, and you're going to know, and the people are going to know, and then we're all going to get together the show. I'm like, okay, so this is all setting up for this October 24th show. And then he's like, but we'll see when that happens. I'm like, so we had 7 minutes of you sitting here telling us you don't know when, and you're just, what?
I know, a lot of son talk tonight too. If you had a kid in the NWA, we were talking about it. That's all I'm saying. I don't understand it. That was a lot of shots fired on the kids' end. But yeah, Pope, call your shot. Let us know, because that's just what makes Pope Pope. Is he's arrogant? Is he's cocky? He kind of brought it back a little bit. And you give respect to Trevor. That's fine. But say it. October 24th, boy. Let's go. Let's go, Trevor. Or hey, at December 4th pay-per-view, let's Hard Times Tour. whatever they wanted to call it.
Hard times too. Yeah. And that was something else I have later on when we talk about something else. I was completely confused because everything is like previewing this October 24th show. I'm like, okay, cool. And then all of a sudden somebody comes out and starts cutting a promo and they talk about December 4th with nothing else. And I'm like, why are we promoting something that's like 3 months ahead of time?
Let me see if I can do this properly. Hey, Ed, welcome to the NWA.
Okay.
This is what they do. They keep you guessing. I don't know if it's by design. If it's by design, they're very clever, but yeah. But no, the show was just very, very talkative, very talk heavy. So you get the Pope segment, then Persona non gratis match.
Yeah. Now, I have a question for this. We're not going to talk about he who must not be named. We're not going to talk about Austin Idol's client.
You guys know, if you're PowerrrOut fans, if you're watching at home, you know. We don't.
Yeah, we're not talking about Austin Idol's client here. But I do have a question. Are all of the TV matches 6:05 time matches?
The TV title matches are 6:05 time limit matches. That is kind of the mystique. They wasted about 4 minutes.
2 minutes? No, 2.
It felt
the match ended in 4. The match it felt like forever. The match ended in 4. They wasted a good 2.5 of it.
It was, and it didn't even make sense. Like Jordan Clearwater, who I like Jordan Clearwater.
Is he supposed to be any good? Because now, and again, this is where we're going to come in from somebody who's never watched before. He got this title match, and he's part of this group with Austin Idol, and then they get Black G's, and they got him, and all of a sudden the dude hits 3 kicks, gets hit by the heart punch, and the kid's down in 1.5 minutes. And I'm like, so is that what was supposed to happen? Like, am I supposed to care about this kid? Because he didn't do very good.
You're not at this point. I think he's got a bright future. He's one of those younger people in the NWA that I would like to see them lean on a little bit more in terms of, I think that they need to infuse this young talent into the more prominent spots to kind of keep momentum going. But no, there's a 7-7 rule. You defend the TV title 7 times, you can cash it in for world titles, Chad. So the NWA likes to stack these easy wins pretty quick. They did it with Pope. Pope had some pretty quick victories, but they were trying to play this story that Jordan was on Persona non grata's side, so they kind of were wasting time. Then all of a sudden Jordan just tries to kick out his leg, and then they basically, in my world, I think they're masking the fact that they know that a certain somebody can't even wrestle for a full 6 minutes. So they're trying to just ease it along. It's still a sour taste in my mouth that they took it off Pope for this gentleman, if we want to call him that. But yes,
wrestler,
this guy, I don't even know if he's a wrestler.
And then
he's the worst TV wrestler on TV right now. He does nothing. And the promo was trash. And May Valentine even was like, "This
is that her name?" I literally in my notes have the blonde lady.
This is weird. And we all were like, "We know." Super weird.
And then he's like, "Yeah, it was weird because guys from the same group don't fight each other." And I'm like, "Have you not seen the Shield? Like the Shield dudes fought each other forever."
Well, and that's where they tied why that was weird. Yeah. Instead of explaining that on commentary because I didn't know that Jordan was a trainee of this guy. I don't know.
And then he called out, and then he starts calling out Trevor Murdoch on commentary.
Yeah, because he's
apparently they're cousins.
Yeah,
that was confusing. Trevor didn't seem to know what was going on with that.
Yeah, that's my cousin. He's nasty and doesn't bathe, but he's my cousin. And I was like, what a weird flex.
And then we had the Mickie James segment.
Yeah, and then they went back to the talking, and I love Mickie James, and I loved Empower, and I love Kiera Hogan, and it's all these people that I actually thoroughly enjoy their work in these odd spots that just don't click. And this was another one where it's like she's coming out. She's supposed to make a major announcement. Kiera Hogan cuts her off and says, "Why am I not?" They didn't even. Again, they were all of a sudden they were like, "Oh yeah, one of our episodes of Power in a couple weeks is going to be an Empower show."
Yeah.
Okay. Promote that heavily. Let us know. So they talk, and Kiera's like, "Why am I not on the show?" And Mickey's like, "Let's not do this here." And Kiera's like, "I kind of want to do this here." And Mickey's like, "That's not how we do this in the NWA." Like, Mickey, you've been in the NWA for like 2 weeks. Like, calm down. Like, let's take this to the back. And then they just go to the back and they don't pay it off. And I'm like, oh, come on. Like, I understand long-term storytelling and you want to draw some things out, but it feels like they're rushing through some stuff. And then the stuff that they shouldn't be rushing through, they're taking their, it's backwards in my world right now.
And it just seemed weird. Like, it was this weird shoot work promo, like Kiera Hogan shooting and Mickey James is working. And the guy in the middle is like, I don't know what's going on. And
I love Kyle Davis. That's my dude. We'll talk about Kyle.
He seems great, but like the dude seems like he never has any idea what's going on in any of his interview segments.
Which is what makes him charming, because like in my opinion,
that's what's supposed to happen. Okay,
I don't know if that's how they write it, but he does that so well, and I like to giggle at Kyle. And if you're listening, Kyle, Ed took your spot tonight. Every time I host this show, I'm like, Kyle, what's up? What you doing?
I am excited though to see if they pay off this whole segment, which seems to be the payoff for this whole segment.
They should,
sort of, which is Kiera Hogan versus Mickey James. Because if that's the match, all right, cool. I want to see that.
Yes, and that's where I was at tonight. I was like, just do it now. The promo that Kiera Hogan was trying to cut is the promo to say, let's do this. Let's make this official. And Mickey's like, let's go to the back. Let's go talk about it. Like, Kiera's supposed to get Mickey so fired up that she wants to do it. Now, Mickey has no reason to duck Hogan, and Hogan clearly doesn't want to duck Mickey and wants to make it happen. So I don't know why they just didn't put the pedal to the metal and make it happen, because Mickey didn't really make an announcement tonight. Yeah, she said there's going to be an episode of Empower coming up soon. That's awesome. Can't wait. I think more women's wrestling is definitely needed, and that's a good thing to do. And Empower, if the Empower show is anything like the pay-per-view, it's going to be a slam dunk. It's going to be a great week of TV. And of course, it'll be the week that Zach's back and I'm not doing the show. So, because that's what happens on these NWA shows. Zach, I think he does this on purpose. I think he knows. He's friends with Joe Galley. He
is.
He knows Joe Galley. He's probably like, Joe, is this show worth me doing, or should I have Pluggo?
Speaking of the women's Empower thing, it reminded me that, I mean, I took very basic notes for Power, and I forgot that we forgot to talk about another weird segment in my mind, which is the Chelsea Green segment, which was somewhere in between all of this. That
was weird, probably by design. Chelsea Green.
Well, that part was great, and then they have smiling Kylie there and Melina, and I love Kylie Ray. I love watching her in the ring. I love watching her wrestle. All of that is fantastic. She reminds me of a knockoff Bayley when she tries to talk, like old school NXT Bayley. Like, she doesn't belong.
Yes,
like,
with we the are big a Swerve show.
We are. We definitely are.
We love it.
But it feels like she doesn't even belong at like the grown-up table sometimes with the way she cuts these promos. Like,
but I think that's why she does that. I think that it's Smiley Kylie Ray. Everybody thinks she's super nice and isn't a threat. Then she gets in the ring and she puts you to work, It was another segment where they were announcing some stuff that, again, I think could have been on this show.
Yep.
I think you could have, and I'm going to do it, and I don't hate me, fans. I'm just doing it to do it. But AEW in an hour can fit in 5 matches of high quality. You guys can give us more than the 3 you gave us, and all the talking. Like, it was just a lot of talking tonight, which it is. And so basically they announced that, each one of those women could be a number one contender. They put each other over. We're going to get Chelsea Green and Smiley Kylie Ray in some capacity. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's going to be
against
awesome.
Melina. No, and with Melina, that's going to be a triple threat.
Which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. And but I mean by that is a triple threat is going to be a perfect time for Melina, who is good, but she needs some time. Mm-hmm. We're going to get Kylie Ray and Chelsea Green at one-on-one at some point, and I can't wait. So I'm all for that. I'll take it. Since we skipped it, we jumped back. We're going to jump ahead.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's what we do. Which the only other match tonight was
oh no, we got one more thing before we get to that match though.
I forgot.
We got Tommy Latimer.
That was
turned on my friend. Yeah, no, that was before the match.
I thought that closed the show.
Nope, that was before the match because during this James Storms comes out too.
Oh, that's right. I'm gonna fully admit I usually take notes in honor of Zach. I did watch this episode twice though to have it in my mind. I guess the way it's what
I watched it once, but then I also watched NXT. So I got a lot of it confused and I took way more notes for NXT.
So you had like super flashy NXT, brand new Toxic Attraction, and then you had like Saul Ronaldo. Yeah. What a weird night of TV.
But Tom Latimer, I love him on the mic. He's really cool. I like him. I've loved him since his days in Impact when he was working.
He's not a fan of guys getting watches over him.
No, he's not a fan. I did learn that he's a very big fan of getting free stuff tonight, though. I did learn that. That was something new to me.
That man has never gotten a free watch. Like, come on, bro. No, I'm just kidding. It was a good segment. I will say, I think his even ran a little long. I probably would have cut it down a couple of lines just to like really tighten it up and really drive the point home because I think they're going to lean heavy on the Nick Aldis face turn. And I think it's needed. I think Aldis has been kind of a shit heel for his entire title reign almost. Like, I think the only time I don't think he was a heel was in the Cody.
He was the heel for Cody. Yeah.
He was? Okay, he's been a heel the whole time as I can remember. It's been a long time. I mean, that dude, I have kids younger than his title reign. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think they're going to lean heavy in that. And I think this would be a good first, like, nice feud to establish, like, Lattimore as a, just that badass heel. You got Camille, who looks like $1 million, who plays the heel character really well. And then you can establish Aldis as a baby face. And even if it's a long play to get him back into the world title scene, that's fine too. He just doesn't like that, He mentioned Aldis's kid today.
He did. And that was the other part. That was the other kid mention. The third and final one.
But he was like, "Yeah, tell your son you got your ass kicked. Tell your son that Uncle Tom." It's like, geez, dude, like, calm down, man. What's with the kid talk today? I don't know. NWA, where the kids are not off limits, I guess.
And then James Storms comes wandering out after Tom Latimer just decided to leave.
Talking about wrestling in his underwear and how this is the best job in the world.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, James. All right. I see you.
I love how we talk about like great promos and scripted promos and like you talk about AEW where guys get like all this creative freedom and have these great promos. You talk about, you talk about NXT and WWE where people are kind of, you get bullet points and maybe some people get scripts, but most people just get bullet points and you kind of let them go a little bit. And then you got the NWA where I don't think they even know. They're like, look, you got 5 minutes. Go talk about whatever you want.
They actually, since you're kind of new to this, they do that actually. They let them just go out there, let them talk, and then they edit it down to what works. Like some of these guys get 10 minutes, but you only see 5.
Okay.
So Corgan has actually said he does that. He kind of lets them go. It is a different vibe when they're not in the studio setting, when they're out in like they were at the balls, the Hammerstein Ballroom or whatever it's called.
I think this is they mentioned Missouri at one point.
It was in Missouri. It's where they had in Power. It's where they had NWA 73. They did a bunch of TV tapings while they were there.
So this is still the park, like Chase Plaza or something.
There you go. I am a terrible host because I did not make any notes today. So I'm sorry, guys, for my lack of continuity. I mean, I know what happened because I watched the show, but continuity-wise,
not a lot happened though. That's the problem.
Yeah, it was just and that's where we're at. It was a show. We'll talk about the main event here in a second, but before we do, make sure you check out our sponsors, RK Athletics. Sponsors from day one. They allow us to keep doing this thing that we love. There's their handle right there. Give them some love if you're looking for some awesome fitness tips. Those are your people. Also, like this video, subscribe, share. Head over to our Twitch. Get subscribed. Change the game. October 15th. Live on Twitch. If you want to be part of the chat, which I'll be there, Ed will be there. We'll be chatting it up. You got to subscribe on Twitch for Change the Game. I figured I'd get the shameless plugs out of the way.
No,
and then after this, it's a double feature. NXTea up next.
Yeah.
We're almost done. There wasn't a lot to talk about. We had a tag team match to finish out the show. It was Aaron Stevens and Kratos versus The End. The End looks great, man. I haven't caught a ton of their stuff, but they look really good. It's Mike Perro, and I'm again terrible at names, so I'm blanking on the other guy's name, but they look good.
They're big.
They're big dudes.
Big dudes.
They beat Kratos and Stevens gets rolled up. So it was another roll-up surprise win. They've been long playing the Kratos Stevens friction when they were tag champs. I think this is the time to capitalize on that and have them come whatever pay-per-view they're promoting, have the blow-off match with the two of them. I think it's going to be really good because they've been selling this well. And then, so that means we get The End with the Hawk Sari in the final, which is a very contrasting of styles. Like I said earlier, I'm bold predicting I think Hawk Sari gets it done and ends up challenging for the titles. But what'd you think of this match, Ed?
I liked it. Kratos is a big dude. The other two guys are big dudes. They really, had a bunch of fun in there. It's nice seeing Damian Sandow and Aaron Stevens out there just, doing his thing. And the only thing I thought was weird is I thought the finish was weird by the camera angle. I couldn't tell if the commentators were upset that he just got rolled up and beat after being on the ring apron and trying to be getting into the match and trying to be all fiery and then just lost, or if they held the tights and that's why they were upset. But people seemed upset that The End won the match.
They're playing up the whole Kratos basically calling out Stevens and saying, "Where's your fire? You're not pulling your weight," essentially. And he fought to get into the match to prove himself, and boom.
Then got rolled up. So Kratos is like, "Bro, like, what are you doing? You just lost this for us. We had it in the bag." And so that's why they're mad. They took. But this Kratos guy could be a star. Like there's a lot of stars in this promotion. Like if given the time and it, obviously I haven't seen a bunch of them do the wrestle as much as other people. But if these guys can do the wrestle really well as look the way they look, and Kratos seems like he can talk, like there's some potential star power in this little, group of wayward souls in NWA.
I think my guy Kyle Davis just tweeted me back about him being afraid of Chelsea Green. He must be watching. Hi, Kyle.
I mean, I'd be afraid of her too when she's in the hot mess gimmick. Like
he said my
she was nuts tonight.
My fear is entirely based on her capabilities in the ring. She took the mic from me and I couldn't get it back. The breaks, Kyle. Hot mess. Gotcha.
That was true. Like she was great in this. Like she's talking to the crowd without the microphone. Like you can kind of hear what she's saying, but I don't think you're supposed to hear what she's saying.
She's holding that cup and she won that, which is her ticket to I'm assuming a future title match.
No, because she lost that title match the next night at NWA.
Oh, that's 73. Right. Oh my God. Dude, I am the worst PowerrrOut host in history because I did watch that. I forgot.
No, you're good. I just realized that I remember it from
73 to today. There's been a lot of wrestling.
There really has.
There's been a lot,
and it's not slowing down anytime soon because Friday night is jam packed. WWE, AEW, they're both trying to counter program us. Oh, yeah, they're counter programming us as it was pointed out in the chat. We are the Juggernaut.
To which, speaking of packed nights, my boy Ed here, you are doing double duty because we are finishing up PowerrrOut here. That was the show. A lot of talking, a little bit of wrestling. A lot of time spent on persona non grata, which I always have issues with. Joe Galley dominates the Bush promo like he always does. Drink Bush, like he kills it. Chelsea Green ruled. Kyle Davis was scared. That was NWA Power, folks. What do you got coming up pretty much next?
So we got NXT. We're talking about a match between Joe Gacy and Tommaso Ciampa, where if Joe Gacy wins, he gets into the Halloween Havoc main event, which is going to be Braun Breaker versus Tommaso Ciampa for the NXT Championship. Yes. We also had a main event of Isaiah Swerve Scott versus Santos Escobar for the North American Championship, with Hit Row having been called up to SmackDown. That was an interesting. Yeah. We're going to be able to talk more about Hit Row now that they're going to SmackDown, though, so that'll be good.
Yeah. All right.
What do you got coming up this week? You got another special Wednesday night show?
No, I don't. We're taking the Wednesday off. Last week we had the Change the Game special with Spencer Love, so please go back through, check that out. It's on our socials. JPJ and I this Thursday night got a special guest, Phil Lindsay of Daily DDT Fansided and the new Crap City podcast on Fightful. He's going to stop by and hang out with us for a little bit. That should be a good time. Phil's one of my favorite voices in the game right now, for sure. Dude's killing it. Yeah. Other than that, you can find us at B2Beards on Twitter. You can find me at Pluggo_ on Twitter. Check the Facebook page. We're also Between Two Beards. JPJ and I are doing our thing out there, just trying to keep Spencer Love's budget as tight as possible. Just kidding. We're blowing that thing wide open. But
you guys, you could save a little bit of the budget for us, so we could get a guest star every now and then. I could. NXT.
Listen, you just have to know the work the system. You just have to know. Listen, it's better to just ask for forgiveness later, Ed. Just do it and be like, "Oh, sorry, my bad. I didn't realize. I didn't realize the Sean Ross Sapp video would cost us that much. My bad, Spencer." But you guys have a killer time talking NXT. Ed, it was awesome getting to talk some NWA Power with you. Hopefully we can do this again sometime. Zach, as far as I know, we'll be back on back in his normal spot next Tuesday. But thank you to Zach. This is where I started, so I always love coming back to NWA Power and talking some wrestling. Because like I said, without this, I wouldn't be Pluggo spending Spencer's money. So you guys have a killer show tonight, guys.
All right. Later.
Peace.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Tuesday Night NXT here on Love Wrestling. I'm Cody. To my left, the natural Astrid. Down beneath me, we got the wonderful Ed Freeze, who just did the great PowerrrOut show before us. Ed, we just heard a whole bunch from you, so I'm going to jump to Astrid first. How are you doing tonight, Astrid?
I'm getting there, but I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing good. Pluggo, thanks for the shout out there. Great seeing you on the show again tonight. Great job with Ed. Ed, what about you?
I'm doing well.
How did you enjoy this show?
I enjoyed this show a little bit. The first half was a little bit for me, but the second half really picked up a little bit more for me. I really enjoyed the second half, but there were some ups and there were some downs. It wasn't as good as it's been in the past.
Yeah, I can give it that. I mean, it's been pretty good since changing over to the 2.0 format. This week was a little bit of a slower pace. It wasn't quite as jam-packed as we've been used to, so definitely can understand it going that route. If you're just joining us for the first time in a bit or haven't seen it in a little while, we did recently change up the format of how we go through the shows now. I'm going to jump over to Astrid first, right off the bat here. Astrid, give us what your top moment, what you really loved on the show.
For tonight, my favorite part was definitely the ending to Indy and Persia winning over Amari and Saray, having like the girls come out, like Toxic Attraction come out, and just having that brawl in there and promoting that match that's probably happening at Halloween Havoc, because they just Toxic Attraction said they're in for the tag team championship, but they haven't. I don't think I saw anything in the show mentioning about the match itself yet. But I did like how they highlighted the women in the match so far, and I'm hoping Indy and Persia get added to the match because they said they're after the titles too. But I'm still looking to see for that announcement because I didn't see anything in the banners down there like usually they promote them. And aside from that one, I'll kind of like to connect that. I did like the Toxic Attraction promo and Raquel's promo having that match and announcing the NXT Women's Championship match, and it's a spin the wheel match, so we don't know what we're getting for Halloween Havoc, which is always a good thing to have a surprise during that show. So I'm really excited to see, especially with Mandy and everything, the momentum she has going on. It's been really good.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Toxic Attraction in recent weeks, which is always a good sign for any team or any talent on TV when we're really focusing and a lot of positive comments on how they're being presented. And spin the wheel matches, I mean, who didn't ever enjoy the Vegas spin the wheel shows when they would do them on Raw? Ed, what do you think? The tag match tonight, the Toxic Attraction stuff, the spin the wheel, give me it all.
So with everything I was going to encompass all of the women's stuff tonight. I thought was really a home run. I don't think any of the women's stuff, including Ivy Nile, including Lash Legend, all of that stuff really hit home runs for me tonight. But I'm really excited to see what happens as we move forward with Toxic Attraction. I thought that promo that they did after the Gacy Ciampa match really, really was a good one for them. It was their best one yet. It didn't take too long. They got in, they got out. They said all the things they needed to say. Each girl got to kind of, say what they're going for. Gigi Dolan talking about how, hold on, where is it? I have it here. About how they were left unsatisfied last week when Io and Zoe got involved. The satisfied line really kind of hit home with it's Toxic Attraction. They left unsatisfied. I thought the innuendo joke there was really nice. You had JC Jane talking about how they don't care about the rules. All they care about is getting what they want. And at Halloween Havoc, they want the tag titles. And then Mandy Rose being like, this is my NXT now. I'm as she said, the baddest bee on the block. And I'm like, I don't necessarily agree that you are, but I like that you're trying to make me believe that you are. And that's the important thing. Like, I didn't buy it, but I'm glad she's trying to sell it. Because that's good. She's taking something and she's running with it. I'm excited to see what goes on with these girls.
In all honesty, I mean, shouldn't every woman on the roster really want to try and convince you that she's the baddest bee on the block? So I know Raquel's tried doing it. I know Dakota's tried doing it. I know like Rhea and Kaylee Ray, and we've had Shayna, all of these women that have come through NXT. They all try and do it, whether they use that exact term or not. So it's what you want, right? You want your woman, especially your heel women, to come out there and tell you, I'm the baddest thing going. Let me show you why.
Agreed.
And speaking of baddest women, you gave me a perfect segue there. So I'm going to jump ahead with what I really, really enjoyed on this match or this night. And it was everything relating to Diamond Mine. It was a showcase of numerous proportions for Diamond Mine as a whole. We got to see Ivy Nile in the ring for the first time tonight, taking on... did we get a name for her opponent?
Valentina Feroz.
Okay. I think this is the first time we've seen her in a performance enhancement role as far as I can recall, so I didn't even catch the name. We knew what was coming. But I was extremely impressed with Ivy in this match. I don't know about you guys. She came out, she hit her spots, she looked strong. She has that physical appeal that she looks like someone that everyone should be afraid of. And then she came out, her moves were crisp, her timing was solid. There was one slight misstep in the corner where she tried to kind of yank the opponent out of the corner position by the legs and didn't really get a ton of height on it, which I'm not sure if that's on her or her opponent, but it's, her first match. It's something small like that is your biggest complaint. That's easy to work on. You've got a stud of a talent there, and I don't use that term lightly in this context either, because I believe Ivy Nile was more ready for the main roster than BFAB right now, because she does what needs to be done. And even like the brief little talking they've given her in the backstage vignettes, I still think she looks really strong there as well. So she's probably someone who's going to get a rocket strapped to her back real quick, because she's got that look that we all know WWE looks for. But then after that match was finished, as we're in the ring, Malcolm Bivens starts up a promo, same kind of stuff he's been saying about Diamond Mine every week, about how they're all ready to fight. They've all got that drive within them. He hypes up that the Creed brothers take no days off, that they're in the performance center, in the gym training, and working to be better every single moment of every single day. Starts hyping up Roddy. Roddy takes the microphone, immediately interrupted by Ikemen Jiro, which in the moment I'm like, okay, this could be a fun feud. I'm okay with Ikemen being someone going after the cruiserweight title and challenging Roddy out here. But then we get a swerve, pun intended, that Ikemen Jiro, instead of getting to Roddy, he's cut off by Julius Creed. One of the Creed brothers steps up, shows that he's got his unitard on underneath his t-shirt, and he's like, I'm always ready for a fight. And then we go to break, come back, and we actually get to see one of the Creed brothers in a solo match, which I actually thought Julius looked better here than I've even thought the Creed brothers looked together. Very, very powerful showing for him, just shutting down everything Jiro was trying to do. Jiro tried to counter him with strikes a couple different times, kept getting cut off. And then you get, finally Creed gets the win. They're all celebrating, and they start beating down Jiro again. And we get Kushida making the save. And Kushida and Jiro is something I had never thought about, but that could be a really, really fun tag team. And now I've spoke a lot about a fairly long segment. Let's jump back to you, Ed, and then we'll give Astrid a chance to expunge her thoughts too.
So one of the things I really liked about this, going back to the match, Ivy Nile's finish, that squatting torture rack, is something unreal. Like, she's already low to the ground. So the idea of this bending, torture rack, that was awful. But the thing I liked about the Kushida run-in, Kushida basically clears house of all of the members of the Diamond Mine. And he goes to punch, the next person, realizes it's Nile and stops. And she just smiles, and he gets absolutely obliterated by the rest of Diamond Mine again. I love that they're continuing this with Ivy Niles I'll step up to the boys. I don't care. I'll beat up whoever's in front of me. It doesn't have to be the ladies in the back. It can be Kushida. Cody's been dropped down for a little bit while he's going to go fix something. But, I mean, I just absolutely love that she's getting the spotlight. Diamond Mine is, if it's not for Roddy, it's for her. Because, she is the star of this right now in my mind. She is absolutely head and shoulders above everybody else. Ashley, what about you?
Yeah, that torture rack, I was like, holy crap. I'm like, I wanted to see more. I'm like, let's do this. I'm like, I hope they give her a match next week. It's impressive already. Yeah, how they, even when they have all the start first and they keep going around to everybody else and you're interrupting it. And I just song and I'm like, who is this? And then it was, oh, this is interesting. It's a turn. I didn't think about what happened. But then I like the part where, I don't know what to call it, to be honest. The part in the top row turned around. He surprised Julius like that. I thought that was super funny. But I did like having him there. Kind of remind me how I feel with Drake when I in NXT. So I did enjoy seeing him like that too. And then having Kushida, like Cody was saying, that's interesting. So I want to see how they go. Maybe next week we'll get a tag team match. NXT. That'll be interesting to see. Interested in that pair as it is.
Yeah, there's lots of room for a whole bunch of fun stuff coming out of this.
Yeah, no, it's so many different feuds that can be made, right? You've got an opportunity for Roddy now that maybe Jiro does come back. Obviously, Kushida is still not done with the Diamond Mine. You can get a tag team match of Shida and Jiro against the Creed brothers. And, you know, Ivy Nile has so much already on dream matches for her. She's one match into her career at this point. 2, if you count the fact she was in a battle royal 2 years ago, but we'll ignore that because NXT is. But she is somebody right now, one match in, I'm like, sweet, give her a couple matches to get her groove. I want her against Raquel. I want her against Io. I want her against Mandy Rose. I want Ivy Nile on my screen more after what 2-3 minutes I think maybe she got in this match. Mm-hmm. And that's how you expose a woman in a short amount of time. You give her that exposition, that spotlight, and it's not exposing in a bad way because we all recognize this is development. We don't expect the matches to be long. We know that a lot of them are going to be squashes. But you give us a squash match that's entertaining and it shows off what she's capable of so that we're excited to see her in longer matches and then hit us with those longer matches.
And just to bring up a point, because I wanted to bring this up because it was something I was thinking about all night tonight. In terms of the Queen's Crown and stuff like that, this is how you can put on a quick match, but showcase the talent in the ring and really make it something special without having to take 5 or 7 minutes. Like this match, like you said, took all of 3 or 4 minutes, but Ivy Nile looked like an absolute monster and a beast. And you felt like you got everything you needed to see from her in this match. Would it have looked bad if she was doing this to somebody like Kaylee Ray? Yeah, it would look bad if she was doing that to somebody like Kaylee Ray. But that being said, just because the match is short doesn't mean that you're not getting all the things you need out of it.
And I don't want to derail us too long on this conversation.
No, I know.
But the big thing here with NXT 2.0 is they've set this precedent now through their first month of being the 2.0 brand that matches don't go more than 4 or 5 minutes unless they're the main event and the big shows or like the big matches that you want to see, the top names. That other than that, you're getting exposition for new talent, whether it's the new talent going over the big names like we got with Breaker in his debut against LA Knight, or it's something like you get where tonight we'll get to, you had like the Duke Hudson and
Grayson
Waller match, or the O'Reilly and Holland O'Reilly and Wagner versus Holland and Dunn match. That you can do it where every side looks strong, even though you don't have to put extremely long matches on out of it either. And the big thing that I have, just quickly touching on the Queen's Crown, isn't necessarily just that the matches are short. It's that they hyped this up to be a big tournament and that it was going to be an exposition for the women, and then it's not. Mm-hmm. And it feels like a letdown when you hype it up as being something big, but then only give you 2 minutes. If they didn't make it a big deal like that, and they actually gave us 2-minute matches that felt like both sides got their stuff in and was a back and forth, and you feel like they really got to show what they're capable of in a short setting, it feels better.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there's a way to do what we want with the Queen's Crown and do it in the time frame that we've been given. Now, granted, the most of these Queen Crowns matches have been way too short anyways, and I won't disagree with that. I'm just saying that there is a middle ground between these girls need 5 to 10 minutes versus we can do this in 3 to 4. Yeah, there's definitely a happy medium in between.
We got Astrid's take with the Io and Saray match as her kind of top moment. I've given mine now, Ed, as all the Diamond Mine stuff. What do you got for us for tonight? What really stood out for you?
Tommaso Ciampa, as always, stood out for me. I love me some Tommaso Ciampa. The dude is a stud. I feel like he never puts a foot wrong. His match with Joe Gacy tonight was really fun, really hard hitting. It made Joe Gacy look like a serious competitor, but at the same time, it made you understand that Joe Gacy is nowhere near the level of Tommaso Ciampa. Joe Gacy tonight also reminded me of Kevin Owens. I don't know if anybody else got that vibe, but he felt so Kevin Owens-y tonight. He kind of looks the part. He kind of, like, if you catch him in a glimpse, like when he's getting up on that second rope, it almost looks like Kevin Owens in a suit trying to get up on that second rope during the match tonight. But Tommaso Ciampa gets the win, keeping his match a one-on-one match. Later on, he's backstage, and Grizzled Young Veterans come up, and they start talking to him about, oh, look at you, doing the young guys, doing all this stuff with these young guys, not doing stuff for the veterans. And then Braun Breaker comes up, and he just starts flexing on the Grizzled Young Veterans. And I'm like, oh, this I got to see. I have to see Zach Gibson and Braun Breaker together more, because this is fantastic. And we find out later on that we're going to get Braun Breaker and Tommaso Ciampa versus Grizzled Young Veterans next week. And Braun Breaker is hell-bent on making sure he keeps Ciampa at 100% because he wants to beat Ciampa at his best when he takes that title. That was great. Loved everything about Ciampa and Breaker tonight. Absolutely fantastic.
Astrid, what about you?
To me, it reminded me of how it's been lately that you get kind of like a veteran in NXT versus like a newcomer, but it ends up being like a good match to show off both of them. Even though the veteran ends up winning, I feel like they both win at the end because we get to see more from Joe Gacy, and we get obviously Ciampa winning, and we keep the one-on-one match. So I feel like they both benefited from that match, and having Parker/Garland involved too, and the way Joe was touching, he ran away. So it's kind of interesting to see what else is going to happen between them, because he was looking at him when the match was happening. And he was looking at Parker where he was sitting down in the audience. So I thought that was interesting to see what's going to happen next between them. But I'm like, yeah, I loved everything with Ciampa. I thought Joe was going to win the match and make it a three-way for sure with the way that with Joe's push now and the promos. So I was expecting that. So I was really surprised that Ciampa won. But at the same time, I don't think you want your champion to lose, especially to somebody that's only been in NXT for one match or two so far. But yeah, I really like the promo too, so I'm really glad it's still 1-on-1 though. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah. I like where you went with that in a couple different places there. One thing I do really kind of want to point out though is, Astrid, you mentioned that like Joe Gacy getting a push, and it feels like he was going to be in it because he's getting a push. Joe Gacy's been in 3 matches and has lost 2 of them since we changed to NXT 2.0. He lost to Cameron Grimes, got put in a match to still have a chance at the world title despite losing. And now tonight he's in this match again. We expect him to win the match, even though he had no reason to be there really in the first place based on, win-loss merit. This is the prime example of how you can push somebody without even needing them to win matches to do so. You make him feel important. He's between the 2 matches with Grimes, or the match with Grimes and now the match with Ciampa, he feels important despite the fact that he loses. He feels like somebody we should care about. He feels like somebody that can win. And I'm loving it. It's something that we don't really get a fair amount of, I don't think, is somebody like that. In a way, just off the top of my head, it reminds me of Ted DiBiase back in the day. Ted DiBiase never won anything. Ted DiBiase got everything he ever won by paying somebody, by winning something. His only championships he ever had were by bribing people or a tag team match where he had somebody else to do the winning for him. DiBiase never won anything, but we look back on him now and reflect on him as one of the biggest stars of his era. And Joe Gacy is already feeling like he's one of the bigger stars on this show, despite not winning anything of merit, at least. And Ed, what you mentioned about Gacy with the Kevin Owens comparison, Astrid and I, while you were on PowerrrOut, were having a backstage discussion where we couldn't really pinpoint who he reminded us of, but you mentioning Kevin Owens definitely is someone that I think is a great comparison for him as far as his personality and his character work is going. I'm going to revert back the last 2 weeks that we've seen him. I keep saying I get Big Boss Man vibes of him in the ring. And every time I see him in the ring, I just see the great late Ray Trailer in that ring in his body. And I loved Big Boss Man growing up. I absolutely did. And it's a different character, but if his ring work is even a quarter of what Big Boss Man brought every night, he's going to be a workhorse going forward. He'll be a great North American champion, intercontinental champion, and maybe someday a world champion somewhere.
Yeah, he's absolutely fantastic. And like, I wasn't trying to say, like, you know, like with the Kevin Owens comparison, like you said, it was just like, I see so much of Kevin Owens in him, and like the good things. He's energetic. He's a bigger guy who can move around. The fact that his finish is basically a lethal injection into a clothesline is absolutely fantastic for a man his size. And those promos he cuts, like, I don't like the promos. Like, I want to boo him, and it's like, ooh, you and your, you know, he talks about toxic masculinity. He talks about, I think it was title championship privilege, I think is the word he used when talking about Tommaso Ciampa. But he's getting under my skin in the way that he's supposed to. And I love it because that means he's doing his job. And it's fantastic. And this character is getting over and getting pushed. And I'm very excited to see where it can go.
Yeah, same as last week, how he got himself into this match by calling out Ciampa for saying, if you have the balls. Well, that's, you know, that's very inappropriate of you. That's your toxic masculinity. Like, why do you have to have balls? Why, like, any last points on that one, Astrid?
No, bro. I'm just like I just like how he delivers the promos more than anything. That's the part that keeps me like watching him. I'm like, I really don't care about the whatever is what keeps my attention, and especially when he uses like, I feel like he gets everybody's attention when he uses like, oh, I'm representing the snowflakes, being like the internet, like the wrestling community. He's gonna attract people when he says terms like that as well. So he's gonna keep their attention going too.
Which is ironic in a sense, because those are the things that are called trigger words, right? And they're triggering our attention to boo him, to hate him, and he's using them as what they're intended to be, as triggers, right? So just great work on his part, great work on NXT with him, as we talked about last week, just, you know, really going all in on this character and not caring one bit what the media, like, really leaning into the fact that the media is hating on it so hard. So I love it. It's, you know, whenever you can get worked that hard, it's enjoyable. We're going to jump ahead now, because I think all three of us probably have a very similar feeling about that main event. We got Swerve versus Santos Escobar in our main event for the North American Championship. A big match, a big fight feel. Some shenanigans happening beforehand. I want to pass this one over to Astrid, though, because we all love when Astrid has her thoughts on Hit Row. Take it away, Astrid. Let's start it off, run with it. All of what you thought of the main event angle as it played out throughout the show, and then the match and finish itself.
Yeah, so, well, we have to kind of go back at the beginning to when Swerve is going into the arena with B-Fab and Top Dollar, and they get attacked by Legado, and they get taken into this car and then drive away, and Swerve is by himself. So that's when you see him walking out by himself. But then I like how Santos is like, takes Legado, just like, you guys can stay back there for now, kind of thing. But I like how from the beginning Swerve attacked Santos, like being like, even though advantage because Hit Row's not here, I'm still gonna try to attack you and try to gain the upper hand. And I did like how at the beginning Santos looked like he was like out of it by the attack that first. And he's trying to get like that timeout and trying to leave the ring for a little bit. But I did enjoy the back and forth they had, and especially the part where he threw Swerve over the commentary table. I'm like, I loved it. But I loved their back and forth they had. It just like when I was enjoying the most, I looked at the time and I realized it was going to be over in just probably like 2 minutes or so. That's the only thing that I hated about it, because I wanted to see more from them. I'm like, I love this. Give me more. And then obviously we get Legado like coming here to help us Santos, and that leads to having Carmelo and Trick getting involved and everything that happened, if you guys want to talk about that part too. But yeah, I did love it. Just like I wanted to see more from it, though. I feel like I don't want it to be over.
Ed?
I missed a lot of the ending of this, unfortunately. My notes are, and the main event is Santos Escobar versus Swerve, and then I had to start getting ready for Power because it was 9:45, and we had to get ready to start the show. That being said, I did catch a little bit of this. I really love these two in the ring together. They're absolutely magic. They could wrestle 45 minutes in the Tokyo Dome, and it would be fantastic. They could wrestle in Madison Square Garden, and it would be legendary. They're just great. I love that Swerve took the fact that Legado took out Hit Row, and he took that and he was like, no, I'm going to assault you now. You hurt my friends, and now I'm going to make you hurt. I really like that. I liked how I called it in the beginning, and we all kind of had the same feeling going into it, though. I'm like, I really feel like Swerve's going to just go ahead and cash in on whoever wins.
You mean Carmella, but yeah.
Oh, who did I hit? Whoopsies. Who did I say?
You say Swerve is going to cash in.
Yeah, Swerve's going to cash in on himself. Good for Swerve. Carmelo Hayes, yes.
Yeah, there was a lot through this show. I missed the opening segment myself personally with the attack backstage. Unfortunately, had some issues with the feed up here in Canada and had to scramble to get myself onto the show. I couldn't rewind on the PVR, so didn't get to see the part where Hit Row got taken out. I did see the promo from Swerve, though, where he was talking about Santos bringing out his inner demons, and now he's ready to fight and taking the title with him to SmackDown. Honestly, I would have been okay if they decided that they wanted to take the North American title up for a little bit and give it a little bit more validation. But at the same time, it's NXT's secondary title. You don't want to start jumping around with that too much, especially when you're making NXT more into the developmental program that they want it to be. The way things played out, there was the segment as well with Santos midway through the show where he had Legado all behind him. And, it's too bad what happened to Hit Row there. My Familia has always got my back. Just playing on that a little bit. The match itself, let me ask you, before I get into the match myself, where does this rank for you as far as matches on NXT 2.0 so far? Because I think this probably has to be top 3, if not the top.
Yeah, it's definitely right up there. I think it's probably the best match on 2.0.
Yeah. That's a note that I had, is basically best match of NXT 2.0 question mark, quite possible. I didn't even take notes on it because it was just that engaging that, I didn't want to break down move for move of the match because I was just enjoying what they were doing. The brawl to the outside, the constant switches of momentum, Santos with a little bit of domination. I remember the, what do they even call it? Frankensteiner? The top rope Hurricane Rana, basically. The throws into the corner, just the impact and the intensity that both men brought. The Legado distraction or trying to distract the ref, you knew it was coming. You have Legado healthy and Hit Row out of the mix. You knew that was coming. I was not ready for Trick Mello to be the ones to actually make that save, though. I didn't recognize at first who it was, and I was like, oh, wait, are like Top Dollar and Ashanti actually, did they come back and make the save after all? And I was like, wait, nope, that's Trick Mello. Okay, I think I know where this is headed. But then the way that it played out, Swerve getting the win at the end, retaining his title, and then Mello coming in and, raising his hand. Well, first of all, Trick and Mello standing behind him as Swerve is kind of smiling and celebrating on the bottom rope. And you've got Mello just standing ominously behind him, but then raises his hand, celebrates with him. The one part that stood out to me, and it's a slight knock on it, is just they showed Swerve giving the side eye to Mello while he was raising his hand, and then immediately afterwards, Mello attacks him with a clothesline. I felt that could have went a little bit smoother because it makes Swerve look questionable that he got caught, even though he looked like he didn't trust the guy. Other than that, though, I'm happy to see Mello as the champion. I wanted it. I like this way of going with it as opposed to just giving it to Santos. It allows that you can still do stuff with Hit Row and Legado. I would be okay with Legado deciding to follow Hit Row to SmackDown just to keep this feud going because I want that 4-on-4. I want to see Top Dollar and Ashanti against Mendoza and Wild because we never really did get that tag match. Give me all of it. Give me every intermingling interaction of those 4 that you can get. And if we do it in such a way that we got Hit Row called up or actually drafted, but then we get the surprise of Legado interrupting their first true in-ring promo, I'll mark out. I'll love it. I'll go nuts. It'll be fantastic. I'll be happy as a cow.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but now that you've said it, I'm like, that could be interesting. Because there's plenty of people for Hayes to work with in that North American title picture. You can you can create an entire division of guys for him to work with.
Yeah.
And bring up Legado del Fantasma.
Yeah, I think Santos is just as ready for the main roster as Swerve is. Mendoza's been there for quite some time. He worked forever Mendoza started in the first Cruiserweight Classic. He was in
and
that
before that he was in Impact. Like don't forget he's DJZ from Impact.
No, that's wild.
That's
Sorry,
wild.
that's wild. Whoopsie, sorry.
Yeah, Wild was
I'm
DJZ
confused.
in Impact, but Mendoza was in the first Cruiserweight Classic, and then he worked as an enhancement talent for months and months and months before they actually gave him anything where he started winning matches. So he's somebody like Aaliyah that put his time and put his work in before they did anything with him. So those two have really worked hard to be where they are. Elektra is still just as green as BFAB. I mean, Ashanti and Top Dollar have worked, 3 matches, I think they worked in grand total in NXT. So if you're calling that up, you can just as easily call up Legado and continue this feud and bring this feud to the main roster. It already feels like it has that big fight feel of a main roster feud anyhow. Put it on the main roster, get more eyes exposed to it, and it'll help. It will only help these two factions grow and gain that momentum if you've got them on the main roster where 2 million eyes can see them, as opposed to NXT where half a million watch regularly.
Just think about Santos Escobar versus Shinsuke Nakamura.
You could list out every name on that SmackDown roster, and I'd be happy to see Swerve or Santos fight them. So, but just imagine you'd have the opportunity of Legado against New Day, Legado against the Usos, Legado against I think the Viking Raiders are there now too, aren't they? There's plenty that can go on with this. This match was done so well. This feud has been so engaging. I don't want it to end. I don't want this to be the end of it. I want, in some shape or form, whether it's Swerve and the Hit Row crew staying and pulling double duty and staying in NXT until they finish this, or Legado chasing them up saying, hey, you can't run away from us. We're here to stop you. Anything else specific on the show that either you want to really kind of focus on that we haven't talked about yet?
I mean, our man Tony had a big show here.
Go for it, Ed. Give it.
All right, so the Tony D'Angelo stuff goes back to last week where he goes up to Lash Legend and was like, hey, I should be on your show. So Lash Legend has her show tonight, and she's talking about the lashing out moment of the week. And her producer, some random jabroni from the side, is like, yeah, Tony came in, and I called Tony, and I'm like, oh, we just, scheduling conflict. We can't have you on the show this week. And they make a joke out of it. And then later we get a Tony D'Angelo promo, and he's talking about how, everybody's talking about him and his debut and how excited people are. And social media literally was. Like, there was so many people excited about Tony D'Angelo, me included. I ragged on him the entire time for those promos because those vignettes weren't the greatest. But, man, this guy has won me over already. Love him to death. And he's like, yeah. And he starts walking off, and he's like, yeah, that Mark guy's pretty fun. And he walks away, and all of a sudden you hear somebody screaming from the trunk. Love it. Absolutely love it. Yes. Oh, it was just, mwah, chef's kiss.
You got to do the Italian. Astrid?
No, I mean, everything with the lady that stood out to me the most, I feel like this NXT was kind of different for me. I feel like there was not the greatest things in the world to say. Like, usually, like last week, I liked almost everything. But this week is mostly like the main event and the ladies. That's what stood out to me the most so far.
Yeah. No love for Tony?
No kidding.
No Tony love. We'll be looking for Astrid next weekend. She'll be in Tony's trunk.
Yep. Our big star missing.
No, I definitely enjoyed that too. The promo, the lashing out segment. I mean, great shout out and much love for Hit Row that Lash got the crowd singing, and then she sang it in falsetto. But then Tony thinks he can take my show, and she's like, I told him to forget about it. And then Tony, when he's talking about the producer as well, and he mentions, the producer tried to turn me around, but I do things on my time. And then, the part with the great guy in the trunk, and I bust out laughing at that because it was so perfect for the character development that he really is a mafioso, and if you do him wrong, he's just gonna stuff you in a trunk and push you off a bridge somewhere.
I do find this one thing confusing, and I don't hate it, but I'm confused as to where it's going from here. So is Tony D'Angelo feuding with Lash Legend?
Maybe.
like I'm cool with it. I don't hate it, but like, is Tony D'Angelo feuding with Lash Legend in her random disembodied voice of a producer? Like, that's his first feud. I'm okay with it. I just want to make sure that I'm not seeing something that's not there. Like, that's
or maybe the producer that's in the trunk.
Maybe he's
like,
random unknown male roster member number 3,622.
Oh God.
But no,
more of those tonight, by the way.
It's something you don't see really ever is a male roster member feuding with a female, and I don't think WWE is going to go the route where Tony's wrestling Lash at all, but you could end up seeing it as Lash ends up like finding an enforcer or a bodyguard or a bouncer for her show to keep Tony out, and he fights with the bouncer. You could see it where it's just a backstage gimmick. Tony wrestles his matches and she constantly slams him on her program, and he keeps showing up and trying to like party crash her show every week, and just fun stuff like that where I don't think it has to end in a match. You could just play it out until she finally just relents and lets him on the show and is like, you know what? I shouldn't have kept you off the show. You're actually a pretty decent guy.
Like I said, I don't necessarily hate it. I just want to make sure that I'm seeing what everybody else is seeing. And it just seems like they're feuding.
Yeah, there's lots of ways you can go for it. I mean, we did talk about Tony possibly building a family too, that maybe he has some familia that can come in as a female member and end up feuding with Lash as he's feuding with the bouncer. Mixed matches, intergender matches, anything along those lines. I'm always up for trying something new when it's fun and entertaining like this.
Oh God, yes. It was just beautiful.
If there's nothing else we really want to kind of pinpoint and pull out of the crowd and out of the show so far, I'm going to drop to you, Ed, since I didn't get to see quite the start of the show. I'm going to let you pick up on whatever we haven't talked about yet immediately following the opening match there.
So basically, the other thing I wanted to we'll do this because it's basically the opening of the show. The first 20 minutes seemed like a seamless, like, one take shot of like in Loki, how they had that one shot where like they followed him around and they were doing that huge run segment, because you had the Ciampa match and then you had the stuff afterwards with Garland and Gacy and Ciampa, and then as soon as that stuff ended and Gacy's sitting there on the ground, you get Toxic Attractions music hits, and then you get their entrance, and then they cut their promo, and as they're in the ring and they're getting their spotlight time, Zion Quinn's music hits. And as he's walking to the ring, they walk past, keeping a look at him. And I just find that really, really interesting. And then we get Zion Quinn versus... they have Zion Quinn versus Malik Blade promoed. And then we come back, and of course there's a vignette, because, we got to keep this tradition going of let somebody come to the ring, go to commercial, come back, something completely different, and then the match. But this vignette was interesting. I think, Cody, at this point, you've probably gotten back to.
Not quite. No, I picked up in the Zion Quinn match. I didn't get to see this promo, though Astrid and I did discuss it.
Okay, so in this promo was a person, we don't know whom, male, female, we're not quite sure yet, but somebody comes out and they're talking, and they obviously have a voice changer on, so we can't tell if they're male or female. And the line that they use is, "I will bury the past to start again." And in the group chat, I put Elias back to NXT. Like, that would be cool, because we know Elias is burying, and we saw the gravestone vignettes and he wasn't drafted. So maybe Elias is moving back down to NXT to start a new character and a new gimmick. I'd be cool with that.
Yeah.
I'd be very cool with that. I think Elias has so much potential. I was impressed with him before he even started doing the guitar thing. Thought he had one of the best elbow drops in the business, that he reminded me of Macho Man with how amazing his top rope elbow was. it very much fits with the vignettes we had been seeing on main roster as he was burning his guitar and burying the past in ash. And now we pick up with a shovel and a gravesite, as far as I saw from the tweets about it, and talking about, burying the past, starting again. It all plays together really well that I'll be really surprised if it's not Elias. Not to say it wouldn't be, a good surprise, but I just think I'd be surprised based on what I've heard and seen without actually seeing the promo completely myself.
And it sounds like we're going to find out at Halloween Havoc as well, by the way. So then we get into the Quinn versus Blade match.
And Blade was the one that lost to Tony last week as well, and we just kind of glossed over that part where Tony couldn't even remember his name. No respect shown whatsoever by Tony Liniano or Mali or Malik or Malachi or
Malik Blade.
Yeah, but that's how.
That's what Tony said.
Oh, yeah, no, you got to remember, I'm trying to put 2 whole wrestling shows together and trying to keep it all straight. It was a lot of wrestling today.
We appreciate you putting all this effort into the wrestling tonight, Ed. I'm sure Zach appreciates you giving him that night off of PowerrrOut too.
Yeah. Yeah, Quinn versus Blade. It was a nice back and forth. Blade looks fine. I'm interested to see what happens when they give him an actual shot and let him get the actual spotlight. But Zion Quinn's a big dude who looks like a badass. I like him. I'm excited to see what happens when he faces somebody he can't just easily beat.
Yeah. Astrid, anything on that match?
Not that much particularly. I just wanted to point out how I think I remember Fightful had done a report about it, how I guess that we're trying to make NXT more with modern things involved. And then Lash, actually, in her last, she's in the Lash Genial, she said, "Oh, the draft is like WWE Squid," and I'm like, obviously, because Squid Games is trending on Netflix, which I thought was kind of interesting. I'm like, okay, how you connect one to the other, but sure. Yeah, but the match is Zion looks really good. I've been enjoying him, but like Ed said, I just wanted him to go against somebody that's more he can go back and forth with that person and just take over that person. So that's what I'm interested in seeing next from him.
Yeah, it's always nice seeing a little bit of exposure for them where they get to have their moments and get to kind of perfect their moves and work on their timing, work on just getting the smooth transitions between moves and the ring action. And that's why it's development, right? Is we get to see them develop, and I appreciate those matches where we do get to see them start out just hitting their moves as it is, and then slowly working into those matches with the more experienced talents where, they start getting reversed a little bit. People have had time to scout them. You work those, and that's a big thing too that we haven't even really discussed is your Braun Breakers, your Von Wagners, these guys that are being pushed right into the main event scenes and succeeding so much. You could just as easily be telling a story that they're succeeding because these top champions and top stars haven't had any game tape to study of them. And, you see it so often where the top guys are squashing these newbies coming in because they're so much better, but it tells a much bigger story for these younger guys to come in and actually excel with their chances, that they're really somebody to be taken seriously, that they didn't need to work themselves up to that level. They come in and they're already taking the champions on, and then you can slowly start telling a little bit more of a story as they regress, as people have more game tape to study and work with them on. But Zion has looked good in what I've seen of him so far. Malik definitely looked good last week when I saw that whole match, and then what I caught at the end of this match after I finally got my stream up and working was good as well. It's just refreshing to see all these faces, and we're talking about the names that are actually getting the wins and getting the time to talk and really show us their personality. But Amari Miller in the match with Saray tonight. You've got Malik Blade in this match. You've got a couple of these guys now that we've seen that are losing the matches. They're not stealing the show. They're not really getting spotlight time. But you can just as easily see them as people that are going to be people to pay attention to down the line. Even though they're enhancement now, they can slowly grow and build their character and become someone to care about. Because we really are in a position in NXT right now where any new face on TV can be a face that they're going to make you care about in a week or two.
Absolutely.
I'll jump for the next promo there, Ed. So we had, after that match, we went through went right in, or we went through the Diamond Mine stuff next, I believe.
The Ciampa promo with GYV, and then the Diamond Mine.
Yeah. So the Ciampa promo was GYV and setting up that tag match. We had all the Diamond Mine stuff, and then we got the Raquel Gonzalez promo. And this one really, really did stand out to me as a promo because Raquel, she may not be one of the top talkers. She's definitely grown a lot in the last couple months as champion, especially since dropping Dakota and what she can do as a talker. She starts listing out her accomplishments as the champion, though. And she talks about beating legends, and it shows Io Shirai, bitter rivals, and shows Rhea Ripley. And then future Hall of Famers, as they showed Ember Moon. Mm-hmm. I'm going to touch on that in a second there. But then it also showed up-and-comers as she beat Frankie. I think is what it said was that one was up-and-comers for Frankie as well. But jumping back to focusing quickly here on Ember Moon as a future Hall of Famer. Now, I don't see Ember as a Hall of Famer as it stands right now. She's great, but she's not going to go into the WWE Hall of Fame. But it made me start questioning if someday in the eventual near future, we might see an NXT wing show up in the WWE Hall of Fame announcements for people that excelled in NXT, like a Bo Dallas, like an Ember Moon, like the ones that do that but don't end up on your main roster as a superstar. And I just want to get a quick thought from both of you. Do you think that's something we might see? Do you care if we see an NXT wing to focus and really highlight those past NXT stars who didn't actually make it on the big stage? Astrid?
I think that would be interesting because I feel like there's so many people that go through NXT that when they go to the main roster, they get so lost. But in NXT, they kind of give you that you love them so much and you want them to succeed and get to the main roster. And like you said, people like Bo Dallas, who we saw so much of in NXT, obviously got released. So it'll be nice to see people like that get highlighted in a different manner. And somebody like Ember, who's done so great in NXT as well, but in the main roster, it was like, okay. And then now she's back to NXT and she's been highlighted again in NXT. But then obviously we don't know what she's doing next because that's what they're going about. That she doesn't know about her character change or what she's going to do to change and get this again. But it'll be nice to see some different faces in there. And not just like people that are legend, obviously, like before. And it would be nice to see like more opportunities maybe for other women too, because usually there's only like one woman in the Hall of Fame as well. So maybe with NXT, we'll get some ladies to show up there as well.
Ed?
Yeah, I mean, an NXT wing to the Hall of Fame would be fine. I think we're still a couple of years out from being able to have that kind of a wing. And even if that's the case, I'm not quite sure if Ember's run in NXT as a whole is even, worthy of something like that. I think she has probably had one of the best themes in a long time. I love that Ember theme. But that being said, Hall of Fame, no. Like, if I'm thinking of like Hall of Famers from NXT, it's, like you said, it's Bo Dallas, it's Adrian Neville, it's Asuka. Adam Cole.
And the entire Undisputed Era, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true there. Let's quickly jump off what Parrish threw in there because he touched a little bit on what I was saying. Just a nice long comment there, basically saying that the true stars are the ones who are giving you a little more bit by bit as opposed to being pushed. If you have one extreme overshot to the main angle, you only have one way to go, which is obviously down, and you're wasting the talent. I can see that, and I know it's something that we see a lot. It is harder to begin like faith from fans because there's nothing credible to go off of. But as we've seen with Braun Breaker, we have our boss, Mr. Spencer Love himself, who's all in as a Braun Breaker fan less than a month after having him pushed to the moon on his first night on the show. Obviously he's going to go down. He's going to come back to reality at some point, but that's where you can easily tell that story of these guys having to adapt their game, having to learn how to deal with the failure when it actually hits them, having to overcome obstacles later on. They have immediate success. They're that blue chip prospect. They've got, you could say beginner's luck almost, as many say with different games and sports when you're starting out, and then you have that sophomore slump. it's about adapting, it's about growing, and you can do that either way. I think you can have them start at the bottom and adapt to grow themselves along the way, or push them to the top and adapt after they start facing some adversity.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we were talking about with Braun Breaker last week when we were talking about him, or it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, and we were talking especially about how this could be a great thing to push him to the top and then bring him back down to earth and level him out and see where he's going to be from there. You know, like give him a spotlight of working with a guy like Ciampa, who's going to keep him in the in wrestling. The best stars are the natural ones. That's why Astrid is the star of the group. She's our big star. Like me and Cody wholeheartedly admit it. Astrid is our big star. We're just along for the ride. At this
I said it earlier. She's our Kota Ibushi. She's the natural star.
But you know, like Breaker is a perfect example of you can push a guy to the top, let him have one or two good matches, bring him back down to a middle ground, plateau him out for a little bit, and then let him get his feet solidly underneath him and a fan base behind him.
Yeah, they did the same thing with Brock Lesnar back in the day, right? Brock Lesnar showed up from FCW and was shot through the roof. And you never had that growing pain, that starting organically from the bottom for a Brock Lesnar. He was somebody to be taken seriously. He was world champion within, a year of showing up on the scene? And so it's not impossible to have somebody come in and be at the top and stay at the top for an extended period. I definitely think for character growth reasons, you have to bring them back down to reality for a while. But you can definitely get away with pushing just a couple. You don't want to do it with everybody, obviously, but you can get away with doing it with a couple.
And I think they've done it well, real good with it, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. But Von Wagner as well.
Yeah. Astrid, we'll give you a chance to get your natural thoughts in here.
Well, if we talk about it with I like how they brought out Braun so far. It's been something that you want to keep him in there for a little bit. It's been nice to see him up there. And to see, obviously, such a new face get that push already like that. I can't imagine if he wins the title, because that would be incredible to think about him. I can't imagine how the community will show up on Twitter talking about it if he does win. Like somebody like Spencer will be so excited if he does win the title. So it'd be pretty cool to see that too.
In 2 weeks' time, we could see Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, and Mandy Rose as our 3 champions on NXT 2.0. How insane is that?
Very.
I mean, talk about a reshuffle of the deck. And by the way, all 3 of them, natural progressions through.
Yep. Yep, for sure. And homegrown talent from WWE. None of the, I think Carmelo had a little bit outside, but they've built this character specifically there. Let's continue. So we jumped through. We already talked about the lashing out segment and all of that. So we get into the Dunn and Holland versus Wagner and O'Reilly match. I touched on it a little bit earlier. I think it was a really, really good showing for all 4. I struggled with this match largely because the NXT crowd was really in business for themselves in this match. I found it was the "you don't go here" chants against Ridge Holland, as much as they make sense, did nothing for me and really just took my attention away from what I should have been paying attention to in the ring. Vaughn and Dunn had Dunn and Vaughn had an early square off between them, and basically ended up having a stare down and a standoff in the ring for a little bit. And then you went to the Kyle O'Reilly side, where O'Reilly kind of played a little bit more face in peril for a while there, as Holland and Dunn teamed up on him, beat him down. That was kind of when the chants really started getting in. We got what could have been a hot tag, I thought, to Wagner, but turned into just a straight tag as him and Holland ended up squaring up in the ring and just brawling, really just beating on each other for a while. Another thing that really made me question in this match was Vic Joseph trying to call him Big Von Country. Shook my head a little bit at that one. I like where this went. I know there was a little bit of talk over the past week of people wanting to see Von Wagner go heel here. I don't think this was the time to do it, and I'm happy they didn't. I liked kind of the fist bump at the end, him directing traffic, kind of building that trust with Kyle first, that, you know, directing him, you know, go take out Dunn so I can take out Holland, and going that route with it, and let this play out over time so that when Vaughn's turn, if it does happen, or if Kyle decides to turn on Vaughn, it feels more natural and it doesn't feel rushed just because we want to see somebody as a heel right now. Ed?
I mean, I love this because I'm really starting to enjoy Von Wagner. I'm not sure how great of a promo he's going to be, but I love the look of the guy. He can really work in the ring. I mean, granted, he's in there with guys who are really, really good. So, you know, take with grain of salt. But him and Ridge had a really good chemistry in this match. They really seemed to work well together. With Ridge going up, I'm excited to see what he does going forward with Pete Dunne. Because I hope that, because I kind of want that to be the angle for now, is that Kyle kind of gets taken out and it's Von Wagner and Pete Dunne. And then all of a sudden, Kyle comes back and turns on Wagner. But yeah, I was very excited to see that they didn't do the obvious heel turn right here.
Astrid?
Yeah, at first I was expecting, like you said, the hot tag part. I was expecting it to go like, and I'm like, nothing happened. I'm like, okay. And yeah, when he was standing next to Kyle, I was waiting for it. I'm like, oh no, is he gonna turn already? I wanted to build up a little more before it happens. And they kept looking at each other in that way, like, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It didn't happen. So I was glad it didn't happen, to be honest. But yeah, I wanted to build up a little more and progress more before anything happens. But I like them together so far. I want to keep it a little bit longer. So I'm just like, I'm hoping they do it. But yeah, just like I feel like I want to see more from Vaughn at least, because I feel like this match is like, I expected that hot tech to show us more from him, and it was like downfall for me at least. But yeah, just like it was like overall like okay for me. I didn't get to listen to it, so I didn't get to listen to the crowd like you said because I was doing other stuff. But I wanted to watch it again later so I can listen to the crowd like you said, because that part I totally missed it.
Yeah, it may have just been something that I caught the chant when it first started and like tried to listen to hear what they were saying, and then once I heard it, I couldn't unhear it, and it really just pulled me away from the match. But other than that, these four guys did a hell of a job. I think this was probably Ridge's send-off from NXT at this point. I think he took the fall here. He's going up. He's going to be great on SmackDown. It was a send-off. It was a farewell. It put Vaughn over at the end of the day.
It got time.
It did. It got a lot of time. It got a commercial break in the middle of it right after they made the Big Vaughn Country. Yeah. Vic Joseph, I don't know where you're going with that one, bud, but try again. After this match finished, we got Chase University. And I know how much you love Chase University, Ed, so do you want to take the lead on Andre Chase? Why do I always want to call him Austin?
Andre Chase is great. The dude is fantastic. The dude is so over the top that he's exactly what he needs to be. So he talks about how this week it's going to be, I believe it was ring smarts or like ring intuition or things like that. And he talks about how Odyssey Jones should have put his foot on the ropes as opposed to under the ropes. Because if you put your foot under the ropes, the referee might not see it. But if you put your foot up in the air, the referee's more likely to see it so that you don't have this happen. And then he asks if there were any questions, and one of the guys in the crowd goes, yeah, I have a question. And he goes up to him and he asks him the question. And the question is, but didn't you cheat when you knocked his foot off the ropes? And he goes off on this guy and he tells him to go F off and he tells him to get the F out. And he keeps swearing and it's hysterical. And then he tells him, you go to the dumb class with Steve. The dumbass class at Steve, and I'm just like, oh god, they brought Steve back, great. And he's like, and tell Steve to go F off too. And I'm just like, oh, this guy is so great. I love him.
Hashtag Steve still matters.
Yep, Steve still matters. But Andre Chase, but he does this in such a quick space. Like, if this were main roster, like, gimmick thing, this would be like a 5-minute segment. But on NXT, it's a minute and a half at most. It's in, it's out. He does the funny stuff. He yells and swears, and it's done. I love it.
And yeah, just to clarify too, it was the student asked the question like, "Isn't what you did illegal? Shouldn't that have been a DQ?" And Chase is like, "You know what? I might care about that if I actually gave an F."
Yeah.
It's just even the sarcastic tone of that and like the context that he put around it. Like, you know what? Yeah, you're probably right. If I gave an F. Astrid, are you enjoying Chase as much as we are?
Yeah, I didn't think about it until like tonight. I did enjoy it. It kind of reminded me of Gargano a little bit. How I was like, I don't know how I feel about him doing comedy stuff, and then he started doing it. I'm like, okay, it's not so bad. So I really enjoyed that one at least. But yeah, when he said it was a ring awareness class, and I'm like, oh no, where is this going? And then when he kept progressing, it's like, okay, that's not bad. We'll give it another shot. How about we do another one next week? Because that was good. And I did enjoy that one though compared to the other one. So I hope they do something kind of similar-ish next week.
I want this to just go the angle of him slowly kicking students out of his class until he has like one student left.
Now, you know what I think would be great? Now, I know they're not there right now, but neither one of them have signed anywhere. And they're still kind of available, and they're still kind of kicking around. How great would it be at some point if he's doing these classes and doing this stuff backstage, and he runs into Breezango? Like, can you imagine the group of them together in a segment like this?
Don't do me like that, Ed.
Breezango showing up as students in his class.
Yes, yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree.
Just the hand goes up, because you don't see the faces of any of the students, right? Just the hand goes up on screen, and he goes to ask, and you actually get a look at the student for once, as it's Fandango or Tyler Breeze asking him the question. Absolutely.
This is heartbreaking.
Fantastic. Now, when it doesn't happen, I'm going to be sad.
I know. I'm going to make us all sad. But I'm just like, neither one of them is signed. Neither one of them really hates the company. They're both kind of just doing their own thing. Like, you could bring Breeze back in for one match. Like, they've done it before. There's no reason why they couldn't bring them in for one match and one thing and just have them backstage, because, God, that would be hysterical.
Yeah, I think Dango has started dropping his name and actually wrestling other places. Breeze is strictly doing the school with Sean Spears right now. That he's focusing strictly on the training and the school aspect and hasn't signed anywhere. And I think that's why he kind of got away with being able to be on Up, Down, Down still, is because he wasn't associated to any competitors. So it's very possible he's still working Up, Down, Down. He still has that relationship to be allowed on WWE's programming.
I thought about that.
That's another great one.
And
because that's a potential feud going forward at some point once Thatcher's healthy again.
Take Andre to the school of Thatch Can.
Oh, that'd be great. The teacher becomes the teacher student.
Just have them like as competing teachers, both trying to teach each other lessons throughout the matches. Yes. Yep. Excellent. But we did then later on in the night also find out that Andre Chase and Odyssey Jones will face off on next Tuesday. Oh.
Yeah. I heard some of that. I didn't get all of it.
Oh, did I get cut off? Is that what happened?
Yeah, you started to talk about how Odyssey Jones is going to face Andre Chase next week, and then all of a sudden it kind of just disappeared, and I'm like, oh.
On me. Okay.
I thought it was just me.
More than that. I didn't say anything more than that, just that we got the confirmation that match is happening on next week's NXT.
And it'll be great. It'll be fun.
Yeah. I'm going to throw it to you, Astrid, for the next segment. We went through the Tony stuff already. So next up was Duke Hudson versus Grayson Waller. Let you run down that match and let us know what you thought of these two.
I really like how it started with the crowd chanting, "Let's go Waller," out of nowhere. I'm like, okay, how is this going? I have no idea. But I did like the back and forth and the ending. I did like it how he goes for the ropes, and that's when Duke Hudson like makes him stumble and he wins. And I like how he ended up with the poker chip idea, kind of showing it to him like I still have it. But I did like one point that I forgot who said it in commentary, but they said Duke said he was dealt a bad hand, and that's why he has like the poker stuff now in the entrance. So it's like finally like, I kind of get like a connection of why he has a poker chip in the entrance and all that stuff. Which I'm like, where did that come from? I had no idea until this happened. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but I'm like, I totally missed that part when it came to that until they said it. But yeah, aside from that, it was a good back and forth. I really like seeing both of them, but I felt like it was too short too. I'm like, I wanted more from them.
Yeah, definitely. It was. I felt the same thing. Obviously, Duke won with a handful of tights as well, although it wasn't really obvious he had the tights. He had one hand there, and they wrapped the other hand around the leg, and they said he had tights because it was kind of hidden from view. So we can go with it. It's a not clean finish, and definitely Waller holding up that poker chip leaves it open-ended that we could eventually get to that point where we have another match or a longer feud between them. I missed that comment, actually. It sounds like something Wade would say to justify why Duke is what he is, but I like kind of the fact that he came up with something like this, because prior to this, he just felt like a snobby, I don't know if we want to say a snobby rich guy or a snobby just better than you, whatever. This gives him
a really bad knockoff MJF.
A little bit, yeah. But this gives him something unique, something his own. I don't know that a poker player is something that you can really build a champion off of, but it's at least a start, and it lets him kind of develop some character work and maybe morph it into something a little bit more down the line. Grayson Waller is somebody, even back to when we got that first tag match with him and Drake Maverick, he's somebody that's really, again, like a Joe Gacy, he's standing out to me, even though he hasn't won a match yet. He's someone that really, really has my attention in everything he's doing. And I want to see him succeed. I want to see him win. But I also just, the way we're going with him and kind of a little bit of the quirks of his attitude. I know our friend Josh here on the channel has said a lot that he knows he saw Grayson on Survivor Australia and just can't take him seriously. And he's got kind of that brash, cocky attitude to him from when he was on Survivor. I'm starting to see a little bit of that in quirks in his demeanor in the ring, and I think this feels like it could end up being a natural progression where he just keeps losing, and eventually just snaps and gets somebody in as a heater for him, or just starts playing a lot dirtier game to win, seeing like somebody like Duke Hudson taking and pulling out whatever he needs to win a match. I could see Grayson just falling down that line, like I need to do whatever it takes because these guys are moving ahead of me and like I'm falling behind the pack. Ed, what were your thoughts on this match?
It was a quick, fun match. Grayson Waller is, like you said, he's really intriguing to me. I'm curious to see where he goes. Duke Hudson, I could take him or leave him. He looks great. He wrestles fine. He'll be great, but he's nothing super special right now. And I'm looking forward to finding his groove and getting with Triple H and getting with Shawn and really finding that special thing that he can do that nobody else can.
Yeah, right now it feels like that's his biggest asset is his ring work. I felt like their styles really gelled well in this match. Hudson's kind of more technical striking and Waller's speed and athleticism. They felt like just a natural match in the ring, and I think that's why it left us feeling like Astrid and I for sure feeling like we wanted more of this duo.
Speaking of natural duos and Grayson Waller, we got something coming up.
Is that what I'm jumping to next? Do you want to take the lead on that backstage segment?
You can go where you want. I thought this was great. I absolutely loved it. So later on in the night, Duke, after Grayson's lost his match, she starts walking backstage, and he runs into Cora Jade. And I'm not sure if he was trying to hit on her or just saying hello. Like, she gave him a weird look, like he was trying to hit on her. And I'm like, I think all he did was say hi. Like, I don't think he did anything weird. But then he walks over and he starts talking to this really pretty girl in a blue dress. And he tells her, okay, well, let me go shower and then we can go out and we can go and, do our thing. And so she walks off to go freshen up, and Cameron Grimes sneaks up behind him and scares him to death. And we go ahead and we continue with that. And so then he starts asking, like, how did you do that? Like, how'd you just get her to say yes and go out with you right away? And he's like, it just is what it is. It just happens, I wasn't even on, I believe the quote was, it wasn't even my best game. I just have an accent.
Yeah.
And that was great. And then he starts telling like Grimes, he's like, look, you can do it too. All you got to do is clean yourself up, shave your chest, clean yourself up. He's like, but how do I find the ladies? Like, haven't you ever heard of online dating? And they start looking at online dating profiles. And I'm just like, oh, this is great. I really like this. These two could be really fun as like a kind of comedy, like dating kind of thing. I'm very excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, it's a fun duo between them. Him telling Cameron that he needed to shave his chest and his beard, and Cameron being like appalled by the idea of it. But it also, so it set up this duo. It let Cameron still get some TV time and played up the Cameron hunt for love. It played up Grayson as a playboy, but it also set up a potential feud now for Grayson Waller with Trey Baxter. With that brief little interaction with Cora Jade, their eyes just kind of lingered a little bit too long there. So I would be okay with that. I think Trey Baxter and Grayson Waller could be a really, really fun pair in the ring as well. Two really fast, high-flying guys that I would be really interested in seeing that match go somewhere.
Could be fun.
Astrid?
Yeah, for me, the same thing. When I saw Cora, I was wondering, I'm like, he only said like hi to her. I'm like, why did she put her face like that? But I'm like, did something happen to her? Like she was running away from him. Maybe that's why she had the facial expression like that. So that kept me like wondering how that started. But yeah, seeing them together, I could just imagine, what if Cameron just decides to like shave off his chest hair just to like, take the advice from Grayson, because Grayson has the lady next to him. So I'm just like, that's gonna feel so weird if he does it, just to see him on TV doing that and change himself completely just to be able to find that lady that he's looking for. So I'm like, that would be kind of interesting if he does change a little bit of his look too, because I'm like, we kind of saw it a little bit with LA Knight, but it didn't last too long with like the hair and everything going on. But yeah, I was thinking it could potentially be like Trey could get in there somehow too and insert himself, and who knows what could happen between all three of them too.
Super Trey. Trey ASH.
Almost a superhero.
I don't know that I could take Cameron Grimes seriously at this point if he shaved his chest, though. If Cameron started waxing and actually like going out like
40-year-old virgin.
Yes.
I'm sitting here. I'm like, this could be like a 40-year-old virgin thing where you get like 6 weeks out of the gimmick, where you start like having them work towards it. Like Cameron Grimes like trims his beard, and, like cuts his hair. And you work towards him because like his hairy back and his hairy chest are like his thing. Like, it's what he was known for in Impact. Like if you slowly work towards like, him in the salon, and you pull the one thing and you have that one line. Like you could really get some good mileage out of this.
Dexter Loomis. Excellent. Now, in between when the match happened and that segment happened, we did kind of skip through a little bit there. That was when the Indy and Saray match happened, the tag team match. But in between Indy and Persia making their entrance and the match happening, because of course there was, we got another promo. We got Imperium calling out MSK, saying MSK is what's wrong with this generation. They're soft. They have no pride, no elegance. Basically calling them immature millennials or Gen Zs or whatever we want to go with on that. And that they, as an Imperium, will be the ones to end the title run of MSK. It was short. It was sweet. Keeps Imperium in the picture. I thought we were done with Imperium because they lost the match, but clearly they're not done. We're still waiting for a Walter debut. I'm going to throw it out here right now that could we see Imperium win the titles with Walter interference? Astrid?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm all in for it. Give it to me. If it happens, I'll take it.
What did you think of what Imperium had to say there? Anything stand out to you? Anything you wanted to
Yeah, just them calling out MSK. I like how they did it in their native language too. And plus, we had the subtitles that way we did it like the crowd doesn't get lost what they're saying and getting the point across. But I like having them do that because I feel like sometimes they kind of lose that when it comes to like overall in wrestling. I would like to see more people say it in their native language, even if you get subtitles. I can do that with Andrade in AEW, and I really like it because I feel like sometimes they can express themselves a little bit more, even without losing the crowd, because we still get the subtitles in there too.
Yeah, it's just before I go to Ed for his thoughts on the Imperium stuff too, I'm just going to throw out there, it's something I'd really like to see them start doing with a Kushida and an Io Shirai as well. Mm-hmm. Instead of forcing them to learn and speak English, give them the opportunity to cut promos in their own language as well, especially when they're heels. It's a really big thing. But even as faces, we shouldn't be focusing on someone speaking a language other than English always as a bad thing. And it would be really nice to see someone like a Kushida get that chance to speak the Japanese, get their point across in subtitles, but also that connection that it will bring to the Japanese audiences to see someone that they know and actually be able to understand what they're saying on TV. Ed, what about your thoughts on the Imperium promo on that?
I mean, I liked it, but it's just... It kind of hits hollow when you have guys coming out and being like, "You're soft. You're what's wrong with this place." I mean, you've already beat us, but we're gonna ignore that fact and keep calling you soft and telling you how terrible you are. It's like, I just want to see GYV. Can we get to GYV yet?
GYV have other things going on. They're focusing on the top titles.
I mean, by the way, if this ends up like, going back to the Braun Breaker, Tommaso Ciampa, if somehow we get Zach Gibson as NXT champion, I'm all for it. Like, could you imagine that promo that he cuts the night after he wins that title?
I guarantee you my shoes will be off. That's basically it for the show. The only thing we haven't talked about yet was the last promo for the last debut that we've kind of been waiting for. It was short. It was sweet. I missed a lot of it because my internet connection clicked out, but we got a promo for I believe it was Solo Sikoa.
I think something like that.
I think so.
Who we didn't really get a look at even. It was just a quick vignette video. We assume it's going to be the third Uso brother. Excited to see them. Anything specific left on that point that you guys wanted to touch on?
I just want to shout out Wale for having drawn the third Uso on Quizlemania and nobody knowing what it was, and there actually being a third Uso.
Yeah.
But no, I'm excited to see another of the Samoan's legacy coming in here and getting his shot. If he's anything as talented as his brothers, if he's anything as talented as his uncle, if he's anything as talented as his dad, like, the dude's gonna be good. So, like, I'm excited to see what happens next.
Yeah, they really should just call it like and have like a little E in the middle and just call it next, because we're always talking. We want to see what's next. We want to see what's next, and NXT right now at this point has just become next. It's the next stars. It's the next episode. It's the next match. The next champion. We really do just we're left hanging every show that we can't wait for next Tuesday to see what's coming next. And what more can you ask for to your wrestling program than a show that leaves you wanting more? And with the 1 hour NXT, when it was still network exclusive before it went to live TV broadcast, I always felt that about the NXT. I always wanted to know what's next. I was always left on the edge of my seat. The 2 hour show, when they brought it in and started really focusing on your Adam Coles, your Undisputed Eras, your Samoa Joes, your big names, it wasn't quite as cliffhanger. It was a lot of the time you had succinct endings to every show. Like, yeah, there were matches still made and coming and big matches in the future, but you weren't always left on the edge of your seat with those stories. A lot of the time you knew what was going to come from them. And I feel like this NXT with the smaller stars, the new stars, it feels more unpredictable. What do you guys like? Agree? Disagree?
I mean, I agree. I think it's been the new NXT 2.0 has really revitalized the feeling of you don't know what's coming. You don't know what's around the next corner, because they just keep introducing this person and this person, and they keep firing off, 16 segments in a show, and they have, 3 segments in one between a match, a post-match, an interview segment, and the beginning of another match. It's like all in 20 minutes that all happened, and it flows through. And they've really gotten this new NXT timing. I wouldn't mind seeing less segments and longer matches as we start getting these people integrated and we start getting them to the level that they need to be. I would like to see the matches kind of lengthen out and maybe some of the segments drop so that we're not seeing like Tony D'Angelo in a 3-minute match every week. So that we're not seeing, Ivy Nile versus Kaylee Ray taking place in 6 minutes. Giving them some time, breathing room. And as you develop these talents, let the time frame kind of flow and get back into what we used to have. But
I think Halloween Havoc is going to be a real barometer of where we're at with that, as they're promoting it as such a big show. And, these big matches, you've got your title match, your men's title match on there. You've got a women's title match on there. We're probably heading to a tag match on there. We might see a Cruiserweight or North American tag match on there, or not tag match, just Cruiserweight or North American title match. That there's lots of different things going into it, but I would like to keep it more like a takeover feel where you don't have too many matches and you can let the matches that are there feel like big matches on a big show. If they can do that and play with this idea of giving us a bigger NXT once a month, once every 6 to 8 weeks even, and then give us like an actual takeover if we're ever still actually getting a takeover every 3 to 4 months. Give us that, spread it out, make the takeovers feel extra large, make the special shows feel important. And then your everyday weekly shows can be more like what we're getting right now, that it's, a lot of smaller matches. You can give your main event 10 to 15 minutes. You can maybe have an opener that runs closer to that 10-minute. And then just have a lot of exposition for the smaller names. And even if they are starting to wrestle with each other and bringing other different matches in there, if it's not a big feud, don't necessarily give it a ton of time, but give them enough time to be who they are and get the crowd into it at least. Astrid?
Yeah, seeing NXT 2.0 reminds me back in the day when I used to watch it with Paige and Emma, and when the Shield was getting introduced and the Wyatt family. I saw the people and they were new to me. So just like I wanted to see more from them. And then when they got to the main roster, I knew who they were and I was already kind of familiar with them. And like, for example, when like the Shield debuted, I kept telling my brother, oh yeah, the one with the blonde streak, I know him from NXT, that's Seth Rollins. And I would like keep pointing out people like that to him because he didn't watch NXT and I did from the beginning. So it's interesting how it reminds me back to those days. How like I felt like I was getting introduced to people every now and then when they went to the main roster, I knew who they were. I didn't have to like find out anywhere else. So it's nice to see new people and getting introduced from them, and I just want to see more and more from them.
Yeah. With that, we are through this show. We are through, what is it, 4 or 5 episodes of NXT 2.0? I think we're through now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the 5th one, yeah. That we're still enjoying it. It hasn't. I know there's still some haters online that aren't enjoying it, but I think here at Love Wrestling, we're all very upbeat, very encouraged, very much still on the NXT bandwagon. That we haven't really been let down. This one was a little bit of a step back from what we've been seeing in terms of overall beginning to finish entertainment throughout. There were some low spots. There was something I wasn't too happy with. I know Ed wasn't quite feeling that first hour. It had its moments and it had its down spots, and not everything's going to hit for everybody every night. And I think that's just a fact of wrestling. I think overall, though, if it can entertain me for 3/4 of an hour over each of the 2 hours, it's enough for me. And that's what NXT is doing right now. Final closing thoughts before we go to plugs. Anybody? Ed?
It was a real fun night. Like I said, the key word about NXT 2.0 since the beginning is it's bringing the fun back. You're getting characters, you're getting gimmicks, you're getting entertainment value. I know some people were like, we're losing our NXT and that gritty, great like indie show. But I feel like we've gained a really sports entertainment indie show out of it, and I don't hate it. It's not ruined. It's a mix of the fun stuff that we get on the main roster you know, like the Tony D'Angelos and the Lashing Outs and, you know, stuff like that. And you're mixing it in, and Andre Chase, and you're mixing it in with Von Wagner wrestling and a guy like Braun Breaker getting his start. And you're mixing it in with, you know, LA Knight not needing to be on every show, and Tommaso Ciampa being able to kind of like lift the division up.
And women's wrestling really feeling like a focus.
Absolutely. Like they didn't do any great time to women's wrestling tonight. Everything was kind of quick, but you could tell that they focused on it and they care about it, because the Ivy Nile stuff felt important. The Toxic Attraction stuff feels big.
Even the Io Zoe against Saray and Alicia felt important, even though Alicia's this is only, I think, the second time we've actually seen Alicia wrestle. And Saray is still, like, she kind of came in feeling big, but then she got knocked down a peg by Mandy and hasn't really recovered quite yet. But she still feels like someone we should care about. Io and Zoe, I know you're not enjoying it, Ed. I'm enjoying what Io and Zoe are doing. I like kind of this weird dynamic that they've got going on. But again, I enjoy it. You don't. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. At the end of the day, it's somebody's getting enjoyment out of it. It's going to hit it to some extent. So, yeah, Astrid, final thoughts on the show as a whole?
Yeah, overall, I didn't feel like it was the best episode. I feel like it was like okay for me. It was like so and so. So I hope next week it's better, especially now leading up to Halloween Havoc, because so far the card looks good, and we haven't even finished getting all the matches so far. Because I know, like you said, they're probably going to add the women's tag team title match in there because they didn't say anything tonight. And already Raquel and Mandy and spin the wheel. We don't know what we're going to get out of them. So it'll be nice to see Mandy get exposed to something different now in this NXT match. So I'm excited for them too.
Coal miner's glove. Come on, coal miner's glove.
I didn't even see the wheel to see what all was on there. I might have to go back and pay attention.
It's an old school Halloween Havoc one where they have that cool old school, like, you know, NWA style, you know, WCW, spin the wheel, make the deal.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to jump Astrid onto the big screen here. Astrid, plug yourself out. Let us know what you've got coming up.
I don't think I have anything coming up this week. I won't be in Reacts, unfortunately, this week, but hopefully the next week around, and again on Tuesday for NXT as always. But I do have Astrid Asked on the YouTube channel that you guys can watch and enjoy, and you probably can go back and see the Knockout SmackDown Reacts that we did on Sunday that I did with Mel and Ella, which is super fun. But yeah, when I'm not here, I'll be on my Twitter account, which is Astrid Bizarre, just live tweet about everything that I'm watching. And that's it for now.
Ed?
You can find me at edfries12584. You can find me moderating on Tom's Twitch channel over there. And then you can find me back here next week for NXT. I will probably be doing a React show. But most importantly, because none of us have mentioned it, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring up the whole spiel about it because it's important to promote the product. Don't forget that we've got Change the Game coming this Friday. Change the Game is going to be live from the Edmonton, Alberta Rec Room. There are tickets still available under a small amount, so please help us sell out this show. All kinds of fun people on this show. Our own Chris Parrish is on this show. Remember that the only way you can watch is by coming here to Love Wrestling or being there live. However, if you want to chat with me, with Pluggo, with other people on the show, remember to go ahead and become a subscriber. Subscribe to Love Wrestling so that you can chat along with us.
Before I get to myself, I'm just going to say that these two amazing people that I've been working with both do a great job on everything they're doing here on Love Wrestling. Absolutely, go watch Astrid Asks. It is a first-time interview for our wonderful natural Astrid. It is a great watch with a local wrestling talent here in Canada, Kayla J. She is a fantastic person. Astrid literally is the natural for a first-time interview. You'd never guess it if you didn't know it. Go watch it. And then the Knockouts, Knockdown reactions this past weekend. If you watched that Impact Wrestling show, even if you didn't, Astrid, Mel, and the wonderful Ella J jumped on together. They made history here on Love Wrestling as the first ever all-women's reaction cast we've ever put on. Go support women in wrestling. Go support in any way you can women being involved in this tremendous piece of entertainment that we all enjoy so much. As for myself, I'm available right here at Cody Defoe on Twitch, on Twitter. I talk wrestling. I follow and report as much as I can on whatever I'm seeing in wrestling, react to what I'm seeing if I'm not doing it on a screen like this. You can catch me here Tuesday nights, usually right here on this show on NXT. This weekend, I will also be on the New Japan Reacts again that we've been doing for the entire G1 Climax, which is an excellent tournament. There's a lot of great stuff happening this week that we will be reacting and responding to on the show Saturday night. Live, I believe it'll be 7 p.m. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, all of those mediums. Love Wrestling CA. We will put out and post. I will put it out on my own personal Twitter as well once I get confirmation of time as myself. Mel will be with me for sure. We're hoping Matt will have sorted out all of the issues he had dealt with this past weekend and be able to pop in with us as well. If you follow New Japan Wrestling and you want to talk New Japan with us, we love to have people in the comments talking and enjoying the product as much as we do. Very passionate about it, the same as we are here about NXT. We love talking wrestling with the people in the comments and with each other. Check us out. Follow us on all mediums. Last but not least, just going to give one more shout out to our wonderful sponsor, Rich King at RK Athletics. Follow them at all social medias at RK Athletics 1. They also have a website, I believe, rkathletics.com. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% certain. But they offer all different kinds of in-home and at the gym workout routines that you can follow. They have all different kinds of fitness stuff. Check them out. Give them a follow. Talk to Rich about anything you need fitness-wise, getting in shape. It's that time of year where we all start kind of getting down. I mean, it's been 2 years of everybody sitting at home putting on those COVID LBs. Time to get out there and get fit again, right?
Sounds good to me.
With that, that's our show. We thank you guys for tuning in, whether you're with us here live or you're watching us later on the YouTube rebroadcast, Facebook rebroadcast. Always appreciate everybody popping in. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscribe wherever you're watching us. We will see you next week back here for NXT.